All right, and we back. Gonna talk a little bit about the NFL, some college football. I'm not combining two types of videos, but we're gonna talk a little bit about the draft. I know the draft is coming up in a couple of months. The NFL season, college football season is winding down. I want to talk about one guy at each position, not necessarily each position, but position group that kind of fell a bunch and rose a bunch. Obviously, starting off at quarterback, Cam Ward. I mean, he was a day two prospect. He's QB1, and he's a top 5 lock. I mean, Cam Ward has done more for his draft stock this season than any other player. He saved Miami, made them relevant again. He has the program's single season passing record in just one season with the program, and he didn't fall off a cliff. The reason Miami isn't in the playoffs is because of their defense, nothing to do with their offense. And the faller to me is Quinn Ewers. He was a first round possibility too. He might be a late day two guy. He's lacked consistency all season, especially in the bigger games on the schedule. The 2 losses they have to Georgia being the best teams they've played, that's where he's really struggled. His pocket presence is mediocre, and he doesn't really have a strong feel for pressure, especially on his blind side. And there's a lot of times teams or fans and people around Texas are clamoring for Arch Manning to be on the field. And it's not like he has a rocket arm either. He's got good arm talent. He's got a good arm, but it's not like he's anything special. At the running back position, the biggest riser to me is Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson, he was incredible for Iowa. 1,500 yards and 23 touchdowns in just 12 games. He's a patient, he's got good vision, he's a strong runner, and he's got great open field speed to generate big plays. I don't think this guy was ranked coming into the season as a running back to be drafted, and I think now he's leaving as RB3 and a second round option. Like, incredible. And the biggest faller to me, that was Ollie Gordon. I mean, this is a guy, Ollie Gordon, he was RB1. Like, definitively RB1, one of the best players in the country going into the season. He was my Heisman candidate, my Heisman dark horse. I thought he was legitimately going to win the Heisman. And he's still a big downhill runner. But the problem is he doesn't really have, he's not a quick jerk mover. He's got limited movement base. He's a decent pass catcher out of the backfield. And he doesn't really stand out. This running back class is unreal. To me, he fell all the way from RB1, like the single best running back in the country, to a literal day 3 prospect. And that's not good look for Ollie Gordon. At receiver, Matthew Golden had an incredible season. This is a guy who was legitimately just a day 3 prospect. He's worked his way. I think he's probably like wide receiver 5, maybe. I mean, he's a day 2 option. If you picked him on day 2, you wouldn't be crazy. I mean, this is a guy fast, super explosive. He's got good route running. A thing that most people didn't see or didn't talk about enough is his leverage winning, his ability to win inside or outside leverage. And he can threaten DBs vertically. He's really good at getting open. And he was the best receiver on Texas. And they have Isaiah Bond. I mean, this dude was incredible this season. The biggest faller to me was Luther Burden. To me, he was a top 10 guy going into the season. He might be a day 2 guy going into the draft. He was really unproductive this season at Missouri. He's a good guy to get the ball in space, but his route running leaves stuff to be desired. Luther Burden, you wonder how good he really is when he's not getting fed the ball. How much gravity does he have? It's a tough thing, but I think Luther Burden fell. And you know what? It doesn't pay me to say that because fuck Missouri. At tight end, a guy that flew under most people's radars this season, Harold Fannin out of Bowling Green. This is a guy, he was unranked coming into this season. If you told me he got drafted in the first round, I wouldn't call you crazy. Like, seriously. He's the most versatile tight end in college football. He's a better blocker than he's given credit for. He's a good receiving tight end as well. He was this season's second leading receiver, not just at tight end, amongst every skill position player. He runs different routes from different alignments within formations. He's got short-term quickness, and he's got rack ability. I mean, as a tight end, that's huge. But at the end of the day, this is a guy that he legitimately could go in the first round. The biggest faller, however, is, again, out of Iowa, Luke Lackey. This is a guy who was projected probably to go in the early day 2, second round, maybe early third. To me, he's now in the third round conversation. To me, it seems less about Luke Lackey's inability to produce and more about the guys around him stepping up their level and their production. There just seems to be more talented and gifted guys. Harold Fannin, one of them, he just came out of nowhere. Luke Lackey, he's probably just going to be a day 3 guy. And as much as it pains me to say this, an offensive tackle, Armand Membo out of Missouri, this is a guy that he has risen incredibly. He was probably going to be a 4th round, middle day 2 guy. He legitimately might go in the first round. Like, he was incredible this season. He's got natural power, competitive toughness. He's got loose, explosive movements. Legitimately has impact potential during his rookie contract in the NFL. And he'll only be 21 a month before this draft. That's incredible. Like, I think he's awesome. He's going to be a great pickup for whoever gets him. I don't want to talk well about Missouri, but I'm not going to lie. Facts don't lie. Kelvin Banks is my biggest follower at offensive tackle. This is a guy who has been underwhelming relative to expectations. I think he was legitimately a top 10 potential pick. Probably a round 2 guy at offensive tackle at this point. He can get manipulated. He can get manipulated out of position by skilled rushers who know how to set him up. But basically, like playing chess, doing one thing to get him to do one thing to come back to the other. Doesn't have good he's got really shaky recovery skills. And if you get him in a compromising position as an edge rusher, you're going to win that one-on-one. Really good run blocker and screen downfield blocker. Solid pass protector. But you never know if you don't. I don't know if Kelvin Banks projects to be a tackle or if you're gonna have to kick him inside to guard at the pro level. One of the biggest reasons Miami's rise came to be was their interior offensive line. Jalen Rivers, he was a guy that was projected to go probably in the 4th round. He legitimately might be a first-round pick this season. Missed 5 games this year, but he had season-ending injuries in 21 and 22. But he's huge. He's a fucking, like an absolute truck of a man. He's got big hands, impressive movement skills at his size. He's got really long arms, and he's really good in pass pro. Got good posture, good balance through contact. He really can't move him over. Got a low center of gravity as well. And he has positional versatility as he rotated amongst a number of different positions. This is a guy, Jalen Rivers, the offensive line, is a big reason Cam Ward was able to sit back there, pick defenses apart, and a big reason Miami is the chance to win 11 games this year. The opposite side, Emory Jones. Emory Jones legitimately was a first-round pick. He's probably going to go middle day 2, 3rd round-ish. Emory Jones, he consistently was unable to protect his edges in pass pro. The offensive line for LSU was a big problem this season. Emory Jones was consistently overextended, falling off blocks, and if you just look at any of the games he played, quick losses. He was overmatched immediately. Emory Jones projects to be a guard. He's not going to play tackle at the NFL level. But being a guard or, maybe even a center, it allows him to be more aggressive. He likes to attack as an offensive lineman. And if he wants to be a long-term starter, he's going to have to move inside. Next up, we have the defensive line. To me, Derek Harmon was the guy that had the biggest rise. To me, I think he was like a day 3 guy. He legitimately might be a first-round pick coming into this season. He was solid at Michigan State, but he really wasn't on draft boards in day 1 or day 2 heading to Oregon. But he's been one of the best defensive tackles in the country this season. Been a great run defender, but he's been a good, even better pass rusher. I wouldn't say even better, but his growth as a pass rusher is what's transformed him into a first-round guy. I don't think he falls below the 2nd round, and he was awesome. Deion Walker, to me, is the guy that fell the most. I think he was probably a top 15 guy. He's a day 2 guy now. Conditioning wasn't there. His production wasn't there. He got pushed around a lot. He's 6'6", 345, getting shoved around. And there's a lot of guys, again, that if you don't perform in college football or in the NFL, you're going to fall around draft boards, and that's what he did. Next up, going to talk about edge rushers. Going to talk about someone that most people probably might not even know about, Mike Green from Marshall. This is a guy who was unranked. He's going to go in the 1st round this year. He led the country in sacks and tackles for loss at 17 and 23 respectively. He's got a great arsenal, whatever you want to call it, of pass rush moves, and he can bend at the top of the rush. That's huge. He doesn't need to add some size. He's only 6'4", 248, but I think he has a chance to be an every down player in the NFL. This is one where I really didn't see a dramatic fall out of a lot of guys at the edge rush position. But James Pierce, he went from legitimately top 3 to mid to late 1st, but he really didn't refine his technique coming into the season. He's probably still like edge 2 or 3. Abdul Carter, you saw him have a really good impact. There really wasn't much to go off of. Again, a lot of the edges just performed exactly where we thought they were going to. The linebacker, biggest riser to me was Jahad Campbell. He was unranked going into the season, and now he's probably a day 2 guy. Even so, I think he has a chance to rise even higher because he really wasn't a full-time starter till probably the second half of the year. Last year, he was a full-time guy this season, led the team in tackles 106 and tackles in 106 and TFLs at 12. He doesn't even turn 21 until April, so he has a chance to continue to develop. To me, Lander Barton was the guy that fell the most out of Utah. He had 2nd round. I probably going in the 2nd round. He's probably going to go in the 4th now. Didn't show any improvement as a run defender. He regressed in coverage. And if he decides to leave, I just don't see why he would rise up any draft boards. At corner, Azure Thomas out of Florida State. This is a guy who was unranked coming into the season. Obviously, he's only a junior. He's a day 2 guy, right? He's 6'2", 200. He got a great frame for a corner. Got good ball skills and can press and challenge receivers at the line of scrimmage. His technique and his press aren't exactly perfect. His ability to recover against quicker, faster, smaller receivers still has to be worked on, but he has great physical tools. You can't teach certain things, but you can't teach size, you can't teach frame, but you can teach technique. That's why I think he's going to have a good chance. Denzel Burke, this is a guy who was for sure a first-round guy, top 25-ish, but I think he's probably going to follow the 3rd round. Really inconsistent this year. didn't measure up against top tier receivers. There was too many lapses in coverage in key matchups against guys or teams like Oregon or Michigan or Penn State, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He gambled he gambles for interceptions. He has inconsistent breaks, particularly in off coverage like zone looks. They hurt his production consistently. Really good tackler, really good run defender. But in the past game, as a corner, you really have to be at your best, and he wasn't this season. If he can clean up his technique, his consistency, he has a chance to move back into that, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And finally, safeties. Billy Bowman from Oklahoma. I mean, he was outside of the top 10. I think he's a top 4 safety prospect, which means he's probably going to go in the first round. He's very consistent, very versatile, really good in coverage, really good in the run game, really high football IQ, and an ability to play in the box, in coverage, and play multiple rows within a defense. That's huge. Toughness and run support. He's got ball tracking ability and coverage. He is only 5'10", 190, so who knows? But I think he's going to be a stud. And finally, Jalen Reed. This is a guy I think he was probably a top 5 safety coming into the season. He's probably outside the top 15. Like, he legitimately did not. He wasn't dominant enough, and Penn State really didn't play a good schedule. Missed tackles as a safety. Doesn't have top end speed. Poor pursuit angles, especially if you're going to play guys that are even faster, more elusive. You're going to have a tough time playing safety in the NFL. His lack of fluidity and tendency to overrun plays, allowing cutback angles. Again, that pursuit stuff is really important as a safety. Got good football IQ, but his limitations might push him into a specialized role rather than an every down starter. But again, that's just what I wanted to talk about. Wanted to talk about some stuff, see how some of these boards look. And there's a lot of football left to play for both the NFL and the college football season. So if you enjoyed this, make sure to comment down below what you want to see me do next. And you do things you're going to like this video. Find out if they're right.